Alright you guys, 602 booster back at it again. Let me make an adjustment. Okay, there we go. You guys hear me? Yeah, you should be able to hear me. Oh man. So I've been riding this bike for a little bit now, for a few months, and I think it's about time I told you what I think about this bike if you're gonna ride it primarily on the street. Alright you guys, getting off the freeway, dealing with traffic, as you all know, is exciting, especially on a especially on a super bike, especially one like this, on this Ducati 8480 Evo Corsa. But there are some things that you should know if you're thinking about picking up this bike to use on the street. And that's kind of what I want to talk about for a second. Now, first off, if you're going to buy this bike planning to use it for the street, I'm going to tell you straight up, it's not made for the street. For obvious reasons, we all know that the ergonomics are not the best. I mean, that's the only one real gripe that I could say if you plan on using this bike primarily for street duty, commuting to work, whatever the case is. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I used to ride a Hayabusa a lot. I don't have my Hayabusa anymore. I'm in the buying and selling game, and so eventually I'm going to work my way back to it. But the main thing that I loved about the Hayabusa was the fact that not only was it heavy, which I love heavy bikes, but was how fun it was on the freeway. And that's one thing that this Ducati has in common with the Busa, in my opinion. This thing easily gobs up highway miles, and it loves to do it. But it does it a little bit differently. There's a few things that you got to know about when it comes to it. So pretty much I'm telling you, if you plan on being on the highway more often, if you're commuting in like 25, 30 minutes plus, and you got to use the highway, you'll have more fun out of this Ducati than you will going back and forth just on side streets like this. I'll tell you that right now. Main reason I say this bike is really good on the highway is because it just loves to keep moving. And this is why I say that. At lower gears, I want to say when you're low in the RPMs, if you're in a higher gear and the bike's in lower RPMs, it does not like that. The bike will chug, it will feel sluggish if you miss shift and you're in a lower gear, or excuse me, you're in a higher gear than you necessarily need to be for this bike. So what I'm saying is that if you're going about 45 miles an hour, you're in third gear, you let off the throttle a little bit, then you got to quickly get back on it. Maybe let's say the light just turned green, like in this case. That bike will chug a chug if you don't lower that gear, if you don't go into a lower gear, and it doesn't like it. And I guess that's typical of all B-twins. My M109, it did the same thing. If you approach the intersection in a higher gear than you should have been, and you had to get back on the gas quickly, you better make sure you lower that gear, because if not, it will chug. It'll give you no power, and it'll almost feel like the bike is about to stall. That's the last thing you want in your shiny new Ducati. So right now I'm keeping it in a lower gear, I'm in first. But the plus side of that, fortunately, as opposed to my M109, which was also a V-twin, this bike has very tall gear, and the gears are very long. So you can roll along in first gear a lot longer than you think. Don't let that 13,000 RPM, limiter fool you. This bike wants to rev high, just like a 600 or a 750. It wants to rev high. I definitely agree that it does. Even though it's a V-twin and all that, it still wants to rev high. So don't be afraid to push this sucker to the higher rev ranges, so that way you can feel that power and not have to deal with that chug-a-chug. And on the freeway, that's so important. I'm gonna tell you that right now. If you're on the freeway riding, so important to do that. Guys, try your best to keep this bike in the higher rev range, so that way you'll be able to fully utilize the power and it won't feel like it's just chugging along on you. But again, those taller gears will help you to stay in that gear just a little bit longer, so you won't feel like you're wringing the bike out while you're cruising. That's one thing I do appreciate. Like, I can cruise in 45 in first gear and it's not whining the engine up like maybe a smaller 600 or 300, something like that. So I could definitely appreciate about this Ducati. I really do like it. But again, if you want to use this bike on the street primarily, you better get in the gym and stay fit. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're a bit overweight, the ergonomics are going to kill you. Another reason I like this bike more on the freeway than on the street so much is because when people talk about the heat coming from this Ducati, they are not lying. I mean, look, the bike is 217 right now. It's hot. And if you're moving slow, that heat is still sitting on your legs. It's cooking them. But if you're on the freeway, boy, see how quickly with that burst of speed, we just dropped 5 degrees from 217 to 212. But just a quick little blast makes you feel good. So again, on the freeway, you catch all that wind. Look at that, down to 208. We love it. That's what we're looking for. So guys, don't be afraid to pick up a Ducati to ride on the street. It's definitely not a bad bike. But if you're going to be doing a lot of stop and go, I would definitely plan your route out so you can stay on the freeway a little bit more. At least that's what I use it for. When I go into different jobs and whatnot, I've got longer commutes. So it makes riding this bike that much more fun. And I can appreciate what its qualities are. Again, the bike just wants to go. Look at this cat. That's how we roll. That's how we roll now. Gimbal, that's how we roll. That was cute. But yeah guys, that's the main reason that I would use it for on the street as opposed to, you know, taking the bike to the track where it's really gonna shine. But this 848 Evo engine, man, this engine is fun. It's rev happy, it wants to get up, and I like it. I really do like it. If you're looking at getting a Ducati 848 and you're thinking about how practical it will be for the street, I hope this video helps you. If not, let me know what you think, how this bike could be more practical for the street. Maybe you want to add some risers or something. I mean, I don't know who puts risers on a Ducati, I don't know. Maybe you can get yourself a more comfortable seat. You could do that. That would be another big choice. But again, I like to keep it stock looking.